The video game world is a lot like chess right now. You have one company making moves and the other company making moves, and it seems like they're kind of rushing some moves, but also at the same time taking their time. It really kind of depends on what you're looking at and where you're looking at. But now we have a little bit of information about Sony possibly kind of leapfrogging Microsoft in a way. And I find this to be a very interesting article, and of course I'm going to link this article in the description below. But it's very interesting because one of the things it does is kind of push a little bit of a fallacy in regards to what Microsoft is actually capable of buying and what they're actually capable of doing. See, many people kind of assume that Microsoft couldn't buy a Japanese studio or publisher, but that's not actually accurate. They could indeed buy that. It really just kind of comes down to what they're after long term, what the investments are, and things like that. I do believe that they probably will make some kind of move there. The interesting thing is they already have a Japanese studio with Tango Softworks, who does obviously Ghostwire Tokyo, and they also did The Evil Within 1 and 2. They were owned by Bethesda ZeniMax, who was an American company, and that studio resides in Japan. So Microsoft can definitely buy Japanese studios and stuff like that. I think it's a little bit more complicated than, it would be buying a studio here. But, I'm not suggesting that they could go in and buy, Sony, like just plop down, $200 billion and go, we own you, Sony. I don't think they can do that. I mean, you obviously have to want to be sold. But the fact of the matter is, Microsoft tried to buy Nintendo before they even got into the console business. So that goes to show you that it is possible, although there are some protected corporations in Japan by the government and things like that. But it can still happen. They could definitely still do that. But yeah, I wanted to get into this video. It's going to be a great topic. We do have some news, like I said, on Sony. This sounds very interesting, and it sounds like it's heating up. And I can't wait to get into this topic. Hey there, everyone. I'm the Crap Gamer, and of course, this is Crap Gamer Reviews, your home for gaming news, opinions, reviews, and much more. You'll probably notice some changes around here, but hopefully that doesn't stop you from giving us a like and possibly maybe even consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your free time with me today. It means the world to me. I know how busy you all are with family, kids, work, school, all that kind of good stuff. So the fact that you stopped by, I'm humbled. Please remember to like the video. That's all I ask. But if you do subscribe, hit the bell and then click on all notifications so that you're notified of everything. So thank you guys very much. Now, according to this new article, like I said, and I will link this from VGC, it says Xbox is very unlikely to be able to buy a big Japanese studio. But Kantan Games believes that Sony is basically considering to make a massive move in Japan right now. According to this, Xbox is going to find it incredibly difficult to acquire a major Japanese game development studios, should doing so remain a focus for the company. On several previous occasions, Microsoft gaming boss Phil Spencer has expressed a desire to purchase an Asian game developer, in particular a Japanese studio. In some ways, Microsoft taking over a big Japanese publisher would be bigger news than its actual plan to get Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion. According to Dr. Serkan Toto, CEO of Tokyo-based video game industry analyst Kantan Games, while it's not beyond the realms of possibility, Nathan Brown's HitPoint newsletter knows that Microsoft's chances of acquiring the likes of Sega, Square Enix, or Capcom are likely slim for several reasons, mostly cultural. Japanese companies are traditionally highly resistant to being required from overseas, which many insulated from takeover attempts by Japanese system previously. It sees a business group formed by members of companies from different industries so that they can essentially look out for each other because they own small portions of each shares of each of others' businesses. Toto said any attempt at a hostile takeover would be a suicide mission because everybody would leave instantly, adding, "I would bet my house this will not happen ever." And he highlighted cultural and language barriers as well. The diversified business portfolios of key players such as Konami's gym business and Sega's resorts as further barriers to entry for Microsoft. Nothing can be ruled out in this day and age, said Toto, but in some ways, Microsoft taking over a big Japanese publisher would be bigger news than the Activision deal. So far, no foreign game company has been able to acquire a Japanese studio, and I can guarantee you there have been attempts from both Western and Asian players. Japan's game developers have consolidated in the past, but as many modern publishers know, including Koei Tecmo, Bandai Namco, Sega Sammy, and Square Enix, this has been virtually entirely kept to domestic companies. As noted by his Hit Point's Nathan Brown, Japan was ranked last in 2019 United Nations Conference on Trade and Development for the amount of foreign direct investments in 196 countries around the world. Thus, if Japan's game industry is to consolidate, it will likely be to PlayStation's benefit, according to Dr. Toto. Sony, of course, has the home field advantage, and some of the challenges that would come up for Microsoft would not apply for Sony. It doesn't have to be one of the publicly traded powerhouses, but I believe Sony is at least considering making a move in Japan very soon. Last week, Sony revealed that it is set to acquire Destiny studio and Halo creator Bungie in a deal worth $3.6 billion. Following the announcement, PlayStation boss Jim Ryan confirmed the company intends to make more acquisitions, and Toto said it's a much more likely suitor for Japanese talent. Now, here's the interesting thing. Microsoft has made it pretty clear that they actually are very interested in adding some Japanese talent to their portfolio, right? And people have asked for it. I'm not saying it's a huge or it's as big a thing on Xbox as it is PlayStation, but people have been asking for these type of games for a while now, and obviously they have interest in doing that. They've brought different Japanese games to Game Pass, and you know what? I think it makes a ton of sense for them to be able to go out and do that, And when it comes to Sony, they've, kind of insisted that they aren't abandoning the Japanese game market, but they haven't really done much to prove that, right? Like, the games that they've released so far have all been pretty much type of American games and things like that, and, they seem to kind of waned in terms of sales and stuff like that in Japan. So, we'll see how that works out. But I do think that, it's something that is very interesting. Could Microsoft, I think both companies could easily pick up, something, a company from Japan, and it would make sense for them to do that. But I just think that we also are looking at a particular point in time where Microsoft has more money to spend, and they could definitely do that and get away with doing that more than, say, Microsoft. So it will be interesting to see who Sony might go after, I guess. Like I said, I thought that the Bungie deal was a bad deal for them. I thought that they possibly should have went after a 1-2 buckle my shoe combination, maybe Square and Capcom, and they could have got them for for both of them for relatively cheap. I believe Square is like $5 billion and Capcom's like $3 billion. So for $8 billion, you own all that stuff. You own Resident Evil, you own Tomb Raider, you own Final Fantasy, you own all that stuff. I feel like those kind of games pay for themselves, whereas the Bungie deal, I've already gone over that. I've kind of beat that as much as I can, because I just think that it's crazy that you spend all that money and it really doesn't benefit your gamers in terms of exclusives or even exclusive content. So yeah, that's strange that that kind of happens, but I do find it to be very interesting. Again, but it even kind of clarifies that you can buy you can buy some games studios and stuff like that, even if you're an American company. You can buy Japanese companies, but it's just it's going to depend on what happens in the future, how Microsoft and Sony react to these. I think just Microsoft has unlimited funds; they can do what they want. It would behoove them to buy a Japanese company because, I've mentioned this multiple times, the way Game Pass is set up now. Is every game on Game Pass going to thrill me or be something that I'm interested in? Absolutely not. But I see that, and I recognize that I'm not the only type of person. I'm not the only gamer in the world, and therefore it makes sense for Microsoft to go after, companies and things like that. Listen, I couldn't care less about In Exile Entertainment. Bard's Tale, Wasteland, those games aren't my bag at all. I just don't care about them. If they do a traditional RPG, like a good Western RPG, I would give it a try. But I just don't care about isometric stuff. There's some stuff like Grounded, survival game for the most part. I just do not care about those type of games. But I understand the need to have them in your portfolio. So hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from when I say that. I personally, a lot of Japanese games aren't my thing. Like I like Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's the first time I played that game. I loved it. What I played, I thought it was really good. Some games I've really kind of enjoyed, and some I haven't. You know, there's a wide range of them there that I have and haven't liked. Some stuff like Neo and things like I just don't care about. But some people actually love that kind of stuff, and that's perfectly fine. I love the way that gaming is so versatile. But for this, I think Microsoft probably should get a Japanese developer because you could add that to Game Pass. It would be a great thing. I think Sony could double down in Japan and get one too. But it's very interesting. Who do you think Sony would get? Who do you think Microsoft would get? Let me know. Rate, comment, subscribe. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, crap gamer 'em up. Crap gamer out.